Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
Want the can't stop, won't stop watching sort of stuff? You know, the dramatic stuff. AMC Plus has it all. Would you go to war for your family? Don't miss Kin, the all-new Irish gangland drama. Ready to raise the stakes? Catch up on the latest episodes of The Walking Dead's epic final season. Nostalgic for TV's golden age? AMC Plus is the home of Mad Men. Plus, meet a sitcom wife like no other in Kevin Can F Himself, starring Annie Murphy. Available ad-free on demand and on the platforms you're already on. Sign up today at amcplus.com. AMC Plus, only the good stuff.
Thanks for listening to Creative Control. While I have you here, please consider supporting Youth Empowerment and Support Services, otherwise known as YES. Based in Edmonton, Alberta, YES provides immediate and low-barrier overnight and day shelter, temporary supportive housing, and individualized wraparound supports for young people aged 15 to 24. They work collaboratively within a network of care focused on the prevention of youth homelessness by providing youth with the necessary supports to stabilize their housing, improve their well-being, build life skills, connect with community, and avoid re-entry into homelessness. Learn more about how to donate or otherwise support YES by visiting yess.org.
Hey, this is Trevor from Halifax, calling in to say that I support Creative Control on Patreon because I think long-form arts journalism is a crucial part of music culture, and there's simply not enough of it out there today. Vish is a master interviewer, he lands great guests, and he has his finger on the pulse of the ever-changing music landscape, both here in Canada and abroad. For all of these reasons and many more, I think you should support Creative Control on Patreon too.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today. I'm Visha's wife, and I will love him no matter what you do. And now he has me on the record saying that.
Warren Ellis is an internationally acclaimed multi-instrumentalist, composer, and producer who originally hails from the state of Victoria in Australia. A founding member of the influential band Dirty Three, Ellis has also collaborated extensively with Nick Cave, becoming a member of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds in the mid-1990s, and working with Cave outside of that band on soundtracks and their own music together. 2021 has been a busy release year for Ellis, who made a record with Marianne Faithfull called She Walks in Beauty, a collaborative album with Cave called Carnage, and a wondrous new book called Nina Simone's Gum, which is an artful meditation on lives, meaning, ideas, and care for people and objects that is as moving and inspiring as it is amusing and charming. Nina Simone's Gum was published by Faber Books worldwide in the fall of 2021, and it prompted Warren and I to reconnect for a talk covering things like touring the United Kingdom behind the albums Carnage and Ghost Teen with Nick Cave during the apparent twilight of the COVID-19 pandemic, the notion of serendipity, and the story about our 2017 in-person interview in Toronto, where Nick suddenly turned up to participate in one of the last long-form interviews he has done to this date, the importance of teachers, magical muses, and affirmation, ideas, imagination, and his first ever session with the Bad Seeds, the people and forces within his life that inspired this remarkable fragmentary memoir, Nina Simone's Gum, people who helped him shape this book like Oren Moverman and Dan Paps, his insights about the new and second B-Sides and Rarities volume by the Bad Seeds, thoughts about Bob Dylan's Springtime in New York bootleg series collection, his work on Ellis Park, a sanctuary for injured, abused, or special needs wildlife in South Sumatra, future plans, and, if you can believe it, much, much more. A part of the Entertainment One Network with the support of listeners like you who follow and subscribe to this podcast and spread the word about it, and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control, with additional support from Blackbird Music, a well-stocked record store with locations in Edmonton and Calgary, Alberta, and friendly staff who will happily help you place special orders for hard-to-find titles, which you can learn more about at their website, blackbird.ca, plus in-kind support from Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton. This is the 642nd episode of Creative Control, featuring the lovely and talented Warren Ellis, with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hi, Warren. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, man?
I'm very well. It's nice to speak with you once again. First of all, where in the world are you?
I'm in London. I've just finished a Nick Cave and Warren Ellis concert at the Royal Albert Hall. We did 2 nights there, and it was unbelievable.
Holy wow!
What a guess of a
fantastic
joint! What a guess! We've been out touring. I mean, you know, I played there before, but these two were kind of incredible because it's a really bold and raw and kind of challenging show. We're playing Carnage and Ghosteen, and I'm just on a synth, Nick's on a piano. We have 3 backing singers and a guy triggering a few things and playing some drums and bass. So it's really raw and kind of vulnerable. It's kind of amazing playing a venue of 5,000 people, and you just feel like, I just feel like Marty Rev sitting there on a $400 synthesizer. It's all I'm playing, and it's just filling the place. It's kind of bold, and we play a couple of old songs, but we definitely didn't take the sort of easy option with this. So yeah, it felt like quite an achievement actually to do this tour. Also, with the current COVID situation, that our crew has been absolutely incredible. They've just, they're loading in and out in masks, and everybody's, nobody leaves the COVID bubble kind of thing. And so far, we're 22 dates into it. We haven't had an incident of COVID. So it's been kind of a bit of a miracle. Because, as you might know, no insurers will touch a tour. So if it gets cancelled, you just basically eat it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, I'm happy for you. You're one of the few musicians, I speak to musicians every couple of days, and you're one of the few that I've talked to who's been touring. So congratulations on that, and I'm glad everyone's healthy and safe. That's great.
Well, we're only touring in the UK, which, they rolled the vaccine out in such a remarkable way. They kind of got onto it and just opened up churches, and we just got everybody done. Well, not everybody, but, a bulk of people done. And, look, I don't really know how reckless it all is at the moment, but with the way that it's being opened up, or what the long-term effects are. But there definitely seems to me like they rolled it out in a really great way. Just get on with it. And, the kind of the sort of desire to get things up and running again, I mean, it has been, really noticeable here. I mean, it was quite shocking to come here at first, and, people, there's not really many masks and things like that. And,
yeah.
It's all a bit like, you realise actually the last 18 months has been a very special time. and we only toured in the UK. That's why it's a long. So it's been amazing because we're like playing all these old places that, Spiders from Mars played, the Beatles played, like all these incredible kind of venues in, Bradford outside Manchester, and Aylesbury, where Bowie wrote 5 years. That Pushing Through the Market Square line is this amazing little venue in Aylesbury where he found the Spiders from Mars, and when he'd written Space Oddity, he'd had this hit, and then he had this idea for Hunky Dory, but he was really sort of like anxious about it all. So he went to Aylesbury and tested it all out in the crowd. And, I read this thing. I got a book about it. That's why, I know a bit about it. They gave me a book there. And the drummer from Queen was there, and him and Freddie Mercury hopped in his Mini and headed down to Aylesbury to see Bowie perform what was become Hunky Dory, and they thought it was this incredibly bold kind of thing, that you could already see that there was something going on with him, and they loved Bowie's stuff. But it's just, we're sort of out on this, we played Glasgow, we've played Birmingham, or we've played Edinburgh, we played Leicester, and Stoke-on-Trent, and it's been really fantastic actually to get out playing in front of people, work out how to do it again. Like it's very strange getting up in front of people as it is for the audience to actually be in a room together again.
Yes.
Even sitting, I worked the whole time during the pandemic. I had my most creative year ever, I think, because everything was cancelled. So I did a record with Marianne Faithfull of poems. Mm-hmm. We recorded Carnage. I've done several soundtracks. I wrote a book. I did an installation at Musée d'Orsay with a French artist. I did a bunch. I opened a park, a wildlife sanctuary in Sumatra. I actually found that not touring last year, I just had to start looking for things to do because I'm just not used to not doing anything. And my year was planned out to be touring and all. I had actually 2 years of a world tour with Ghosteen, and then that got thrown into chaos, with everything like everybody else. So
yeah, it's a weird part of this time because you're not the only one I've talked to, Warren, who has said some semblance of that. Like, yeah, this is a horrible, horrible crisis and humanitarian tragedy, but for those of us who have been able to actually get some time that we don't normally have to, and also I think sometimes you make things to keep despair at bay, to not let the stress of life get to you. So,
well, I don't think anybody's ever really experienced anything like this. We have no reference for it,
exactly.
And I can't imagine what it was like to be a little family with a young family stuck in an apartment in a big city or something, like I can't imagine, talk about the silver linings of it. But, I was really aware that I was in a privileged position because I was able to get through it, like I didn't have to worry about the roof over my head or how I was going to pay the bills and things like that, but I had definitely had people around me who were going through that.
Yeah.
And I realized that, either the way you experienced the whole thing was, it was either you were privileged or you weren't, and so I'm really aware of that. But at the same time, I was able to turn certain things around in that time because I do just like to work.
Yeah.
And fortunately, when stuff opened up for work, I was able to get on and do all the correct stuff, come over, pick up Blonde, the score for Andrew Dominik's film, and get the strings underway. And then, I was able to do a documentary on Estola. I was able to come back and forwards between the UK a lot, within the confinement, the rules of the moment, because it changed all the time here. But, I was literally like hopping on a train with 3 people and coming over here and quarantining and, knocking out a score. Then me and Nick knocked out Carnage and what have you,
No, it's amazing. We all appreciate everything you've done, and I'm very excited to talk to you about this wondrous book. It is just...
Oh, you've read it. Is that what this is about?
It is. Did you think we were just catching up old times?
I just thought it had been a couple of years since we were sitting in that hotel lobby and, you kind of wanted to have a catch-up. I didn't really know what it was about.
Warren, there's a lot of magic in this book, I think, and we'll get to it. I think you are someone who believes in that sort of thing. And I've told this story many times, but for those who haven't heard it before, yes, the year I believe was 2017. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds were doing 2 shows at Massey Hall, and I at the last minute got to go. I thought I couldn't go to either because my wife had a business trip planned, but she got a little under the weather and bailed on the trip. So at the last second, I asked the promoter, "Hey, can you get me a ticket to this show tonight?" And they did. One of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. Massey Hall, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds the first night. And before I leave, I see our mutual friend there, your publicist at the time, Rebecca Webster. And I said, "Do you think Warren would want to have an interview with me?" And she's like, "Right now? Tonight?" And I said, No. He just played a show. He's not going to want to talk to me now. How about tomorrow? And she said, "Oh, I'll ask him." I come back the next day. I meet you in the lobby, and you're on the phone. Do you remember this? You were on the phone when we first encountered each other. Do you have any recollection of this?
Yeah.
And what I've told to people is you were saying, "No, it's just a guy. He doesn't have any cameras. It's just a guy with microphones."
That's right.
And right away, right away I thought, oh, he's talking to Nick. That's what I thought. Have I ever I don't think I've told you this story. I thought, oh, he must be talking to Nick. And then you and I sit down, we get rolling. We're 5 minutes in. Who shows up? Nick. And it's one of the most momentous occasions of my career, certainly, and certainly of my life. So I just wanted to thank you. Do you have what was going on with that phone call? Can we get into it? What is that? Because I've been told that was very unusual for Nick to join us in that way. Is that true?
Well, I don't really know what happened, to be honest. But, I mean, if it sounds like what happened, but, all I can say is, there's sometimes a beautiful serendipity about things that you just don't bother trying to explain, I don't know. I mean, it probably doesn't happen. Like, I'm doing loads of stuff and he just, I've never had him jump, except once when we did ATP and he played piano and he came in, did an interview with me for something. I can't remember what. He just sort of was there. And, but no, normally, well, now he just steer clears of him. He doesn't do interviews at all.
I don't think he's really done one since that one, is what I understand. Really, I mean,
probably not. He hasn't done one. Certainly hasn't done one since Arthur died. He just decided to stop. He did one, and then that was it.
Yeah.
So he's just sort of taken control of it. He does his own thing,
Well, it was. You and I had spoken before that, and I think you knew I was a fan of yours and Dirty Three and all those sorts of things. So I don't know what to say about it, and you're right. Maybe it's not worth explaining, but I just want you to know.
Well, it's a bit actually what No, I hear what you're saying, and that's I'm happy. But it's kind of like what my book is about. It's about the serendipity of things,
yes.
These things that just happen to you, and it's a bit, I think coming out of that sort of what you're saying, like. Very much like there's things in your life that can just happen. It feels like we're these sort of walking ideas, like we're just a whole bunch of ideas on legs or whatever, or wheels, walking around. And it's who we bump into that enables ideas within us to take flight. And that definitely has been my case. Like whether it's a teacher or someone I've met or Mick and Jim or Nick or my guy that makes my shoes, or it's these people who kind of, how like the way that you go to see a film and everybody is seeing a different film, everybody's reading a different book. They're reading you, and it's like we're walking around and these people are reading us, like the good people that come across us in our life. Yeah. They bring out the best in us. And I think that's what you're talking about, these moments of just serendipity that happen that can change you, like you said, it was, one of the great experiences of my life, and that's fantastic. And for me, this book is about that, these moments that I can see now. I guess it's looking back, with some retrospect in mind. See these pivotal points, these little signposts where things, you'll know there's a decision that you made at one time that just changed things. Like when you put the Velvet Underground on and you just know there's no way back from there. You're like, whoa, when you discover something or you hear Alice Coltrane or John Coltrane, when I've heard John Coltrane, I thought it was the voice of God. Mm-hmm. Coming out the speaker. I had no idea what it was, but it just instantly spoke to me. And these sort of things that life won't be the same after. Yeah, and it's very much about our imagination. I think these things. It's what engages. Somebody else can hear John Coltrane and go, "Geez, he plays a bit flat" or something. Yeah. Somebody else can hear it and think it's like the voice of God, and I think that's the amazing thing. It's about how much we allow our imagination to kind of engage in these things.
I think, I agree. But I will also say to you, Warren, just how pivotal that whole occasion was for me, because we concluded that interview in the afternoon, and Nick seemed to remember, and I had spoken with Nick before too, in person actually, in Toronto, in that same area years and years earlier. But he said to me as you were both leaving, "You're coming to the show tonight, right? The second show." And I said, "Oh, I was planning to be home with my ailing wife. I thought I was just going to drive home." And I said, "Oh, sure." And then as you left, Rebecca, the publicist, said, just first she was freaking out that what had occurred had occurred. She was freaking out. She said, I'm so glad it was you. Anyone else, I don't know if they could have handled that. And I didn't know what that meant. That was a nice compliment. But she also said, by the way, the show is oversold out. I can't get you in. And I said, okay. And so I started to drive home on the highway, and then I got a text from Rebecca, Nick put you on the guest list. So then I go back to the venue, and I ran into a figure here who was dying. There's a figure in Canada, his name is Gord Downey, and he was a singer-songwriter fellow and an important figure here, and I knew him vaguely. And he had announced that he had terminal cancer. And I ran into him moments before the show, and we talked. It was the last time I spoke with him and saw him. I went and watched your show. By the way, I picked up my tickets, and I saw a backstage pass. I'm like, oh, boy, okay, this is going to be quite a day. Watch this brilliant show. I go backstage. You and Nick come out to greet some people. And at some point, you, Warren, looked at me, and you motioned to Nick, and you pointed at me, and Nick came over and asked me, as you may recall, we got into some politics in our conversation. And Nick took a moment to say, I need you to do me a favor. Can you take out any reference to Trump? I don't want that in there. I don't want him to have my time. He doesn't deserve it, or something along those lines. And I said, yeah, okay, no problem. And then he said, good, because if you don't, I will hunt you down and kill you. Which I thought, he was right in my nose to nose. And I said, okay. And I just looked at him. I didn't stand down. I just said, okay. And I said,
he's watching Taken too many times, clearly.
Yeah. And I said, have you been thinking about this all day? And he said, maybe. But then Nick stood by my side and we talked for like 2 hours. And all of this, Warren, honestly, is you. So when you talk about serendipity, because a lot of the figures that you encounter in your life as you depict in this book, they seem magical. They provide, they emanate a warmth to you, and you are genuinely moved by them. And there's all I'm saying, Warren, is you might be a magical being. That's what I'm getting at, I think. And it's
a lovely idea. I don't really know. I mean, some people are sort of conduits for things, aren't they? Like they can just, but again, it's really, when you think about it, it's logical. I mean, like there's something like, I guess you're talking to me, Nick is there, he turns up, like there's more chance maybe of that happening than bumping into him in the street and saying, hey,
Sure.
Look, I don't really know. I mean, There's something about circumstances, but I know looking at writing this book, I first of all wanted to write, it was really like an art book. I wanted to write, it was mainly like it had all these beautiful photos of the copies being made, and I thought that was so moving, and I had these sort of like different people step in and out of it, like that it was just like an idea or something. Everyone was getting under it and everybody was carrying it. And the amazing thing around that gum was absolutely nothing, that you couldn't see it. And for me, what it is around there, it's Nina Simone, but it's us, it's what I said before. It's about our imagination engaged. So it's the thought, it's like a holy relic. What's around it is the thing. It doesn't matter that it's a piece of gum or that it's a fingernail or an umbilical cord or a kind of hair. What it is what's around it that we can't touch. And it just seemed to me like the first time I'd seen concretely like this thing that I feel in the studio when ideas take flight. These days I sit and wait for the ideas to come. I sit in the studio with Nick and we just sit and play and play and play. Don't really, like, he might have some words or not, and I have a few little ideas. But when you don't have anything, it's when it starts getting interesting, because it's like the ideas hunt you down,
Well, I mean, you talk about figures in your life, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name. Your late friend's name was Mick Geyer, is that right?
Yeah, Mick Geyer.
So think about that. And by the way, before I get too lost in this, I do think I've already told you this book is brilliant and funny and moving. I do think for people who don't have an entry point, I'm going to ask you in a moment to summarize the book a little bit so we can catch people up. But I just want to say, Mick Geyer is this figure in your life who appears out of nowhere after a show you both attend, Prince, I believe. And then he not only introduces you to the music of Nina Simone, he introduces you to Nick Cave. Like, that's what I'm talking about, Warren. Like, when I think of you, and, I don't know what that day was all about, those days we spent together, but to me, you're sort of my Mick Geyer. You're one of my Mick Geyers in my life. You know what I mean? You came into my life.
I think we all have them. I mean, it's why I wrote about Mick, because, and really with the book, when I looked at what I had, and my friend Oren convinced me I needed to write about myself, and I didn't want it to be a memoir of any sort at all, because I just don't think my life is particularly interesting, and if it is to anybody, I don't want to be the one writing it down, because it's just a tone to those things that I don't like. I really love Chronicles. I think that's an amazing amazingly generous. I mean,
the Bob Dylan book?
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so generous, and it's like what he's actually giving you is so generous,
Yeah.
And I really liked the Salvador Dali one, The Secret Life of Salvador Dali, and I liked the Art Pepper one. I mean, there's some that I like, but a lot of them I just find that the artist has done their job for me if they've moved me. I don't want to know the ins and outs of things, I mean, the artist's work is the thing that has moved me. They've already given me more than I should ask for. Mm-hmm. So, this thing of meeting people and being disappointed or whatever, I mean, that's your problem, because why should they be any more than their work? Like the work has already done something. Like who cares if you meet somebody and you're not impressed by them or their whatever, like who cares? Like I'm not interested in that at all. I'm not interested in even meeting people, that have really moved me or changed my life. I mean, I had the most amazing experience to meet Lou Reed, when in the studio just after he'd recorded Lulu, which is just the most extraordinary record. And he came in to listen to a version of White Light, White Heat that we'd done with Ralph Stanley. Mm-hmm. And I could not have asked for a more incredible experience, but if he had been really rude and cantankerous, I wouldn't have cared less, I really think it's more about what we bring to that stuff. And like I said, the person who's made something, the artist who's made something or written something or created something, they've already done more than you can ask for, So, and again, it's like we get these stories in our head, build on our imagination and what we think things must be like. And, you're going to be let down, So I mean, I think a lot of people have figures like Mick Geyer was so informative for me, like he was a radar for great things, and his taste was really impeccable, and I was hungry for knowledge, and those people who can sort of like say, hey, check out this song, check out I Want to Comfort You, Dave McComb was like that. Yeah. These people who can just save you the legwork sometimes, because that's what they've been doing, Yeah. Check out this film, have a look at this, and that they've done the kind of work. And now you mightn't agree with them, but for me, these people were really important,
Well, I think, I think you've actually vaguely pinpointed why I try to do what I do, which is talk to people I'm interested in or think are interesting, and the hope is that other people hear it and to say, "Oh, I've never heard of Warren Ellis. What is this guy all about?" You know what I mean? Like I feel like,
well, you don't exist without other people. Your ideas don't exist. I mean, it doesn't matter what you make if people don't consume it. It doesn't exist. Yeah, and that's the thing that's fantastic about creating stuff, because it exists in the imagination of the community. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really, I mean, the audience is as big a part of the concert as the band in some respects, and the listener or the reader or the observer, their interaction is a really big part of it, because that validates or confirms your suspicions, or it kind of gives it a whole new life, and really, like they really are important. They're an important part of like the whole thing, the global thing. So, and like it's, I mean, you're talking about like yourself, I guess, in the way, you know, why I dedicated the book to teachers, these people,
Yes.
whoever they are, that kind of inform us, or these people who give us affirmation and say to us, hey, that's good, kid, you know, like, wow, look at this thing that you've done, you know, and you always remember those people, you know, that say like, hey, that's not bad, you know, or, wow, this bit's really good. You know, I think that was something I hadn't intended with the book, but it's about affirmation and how important it is.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'd never thought about this stuff, but looking at the, you know, when I eventually conceded to sort of writing a fragmentary, I guess it's not really it's sort of a memoir because it is sort of fragmentary reflections of mine, but they're all linked to this thing that Oren Moverman helped me see, because I resisted doing the interviews with him, just saying like, you know, I don't want to talk about myself. This is about the gum. This is about this, you know, like this is this thing, this great art book, you know, like this is going to be the greatest art book ever written, you know. And that was what Nick said to me when I told him, I said, oh, I've got this idea for a book. And he goes, wow, that could be sounds like the greatest art book ever. You know, it's what it's all about, you know. And he's like, I'll do the introduction, you know. Do you want it? And I'm like, I'd love that, you know. I thought, okay, that's like a whole bunch of words done already with him. I'll have to write about 10 pages and I'm out of there. Put some pictures in there. And Oren, in discussion with him, because I got absolutely like telling Faber about the idea, you know, the people who published it, they just came to the table straight away, you know. They were around a table. I told them about it, and 45 minutes later they looked at each other. One of the woman was in tears when she sort of, I opened the box and she saw the sort of mold of the gum, not even the real one. She was just in tears, and they just said, we don't need to talk about this. We want you to write this book. That was like, you know, 3 people, main people in that department of Faber, Dan and Jack and Alexa. Yeah. And again, that was symbolic of the whole story about this, you know, that anybody who kind of came on board, they got underneath this tiny little idea. The book is an idea in itself, you know, like the whole book is an idea. And it's about everybody getting underneath it and carrying it, you know. And I've noticed this my whole creative life, these tiny little fragments and filaments that appear in the studio. They don't have a chance unless somebody gets underneath them, or some people get underneath it and they give it a chance to fly. And they can be crushed so quickly, you know, with the wrong words. And it's this really incredible moment. And, you know, I could see with the people, like last night after the show, Christina was there from the Royal Danish Library. And I'm like, how's that bit of gum going like this? And she's going, oh, my God, we've built a special conservationary box now for it. It's got its own little sort of thermometer and temperature control and da-da-da-da-da like this. We've built it within the glass container, like it came in a little glass jar for jam, you know. Yeah. It's now included in the whole thing, you know, like she goes, it's kept within its glass jar within a kind of, you know, I love this. This is what it's all about for me. This is like what an idea is, people getting under nothing, you know, like just something that's moved their gut, or something that's kind of, they don't know what it is, but it's moved them, and they want it. You know, for me, it's like vibration. I'll hear 2 things. I don't know why, but it moves me, and I want to kind of work out what I can do to help it live, you know. Yeah. And when I met Nick the first time in the studio, the first day I was in there was a song that they were doing that wasn't working, and I just sort of suggested something, and Nick started messing around. He going like this, and I'm like, yeah, maybe like that, you know, da-da-da-da-da, like that. And then he just looked at me and he goes, do you want to come in tomorrow? Do you want to come in for the rest of the week? Just like that, you know. And for me, walking in the studio at that time with the Bad Seeds, it was like I couldn't think of a greater band on the planet, you know. Like it was, I was absolutely in absolute awe of them. Walking in there, I was like, Jesus, you know, like, you know, I mean, I was a little speed freak and a junkie and a out-of-tune violin player, you know, that could sort of smash it up a bit, you know, but like I was kind of stepping into a different thing, and you know, in retrospect, to walk in and see the way those people worked was just such a gift for me, you know. Like I saw the way Nick was so driven and committed to the idea, you know, straight away. Like I'd never encountered that before at such a level. You know, for me, even to have that week in there those few days gave me so much grist to the mill, you know. But then to think that 25 years later, you know, that we just played Royal Albert Hall together, you know, performing those last two records, you know, it's kind of a testament to a sort of collaboration that's stood some test of time.
Well, all I was going to say, Warren, is like, I think what you're getting at is that there are these moments in our lives, the trajectories of our lives, you maybe don't realize the gravity of them until you reflect upon them as you have in this book. Like, what I appreciate about this book is it's about a piece of Nina Simone's gum. However, what we get from it, and I understand your reticence about wanting to or giving into the temptation of writing some sort of self-serving memoir, but what I recognize in the book is this little piece of gum, the path for you to be able to be in a position in your life where you can crawl on the stage after Nina Simone's performed and abscond a piece of gum and a towel and what that means. Like, what are all the little moments? What are all the little comments from teachers and educators and your family? How did you get to this piece of gum? And I like that the book focuses on this piece of gum and kind of the gum is for you a turning point of some sort. I mean, at least in this project, like it was. But you know, the thing was, just to go back to, Oren had said to me, "You don't think this is about you, but it is." Yeah, and I'm like, "It's not. It's about the gum." And he goes, "No, it's not, Warren." He goes, "Out of 2,000 people, you were the one who crawled up on stage. You're the one that's looked after it for 20 years. Yeah. Why did you do it?" And I go, "I've never even asked why." Yeah. I did it, you know, like you don't ask yourself why when you know something is the right thing to do. So, you know, I'm eternally grateful to Oren for pushing me through that, you know. And then Dan was amazing at Faber and Alexa, because they let me find my voice, but they also pushed me into, they never kind of, you know, like they'd say, "Oh, you know, can you give us more here," and stuff like that. And at times when I didn't want to, it was fine, you know, but they helped me see, and everybody I mentioned in the book helped me see what the idea was here and what it was. And when I looked at where I'd kept it, it was clear, you know, I had it next to Beethoven, and why I had a Beethoven bust. I knew why. And then I realized that the kind of atmospheric shifts that I felt in her concert, during that whole thing, with similar things to what I feel when I'm playing. And you know, without a plot spoiler, the last sort of thing I talk about, that was a thing that kind of like, it was exactly the same thing. And then I realized this kind of like appearance of light and stuff like that when I have these weird out of, you know, like, I don't know, like cosmic experiences or supernatural experiences. You know, I trace it back to the incident that I opened as a child with my brother, watching this thing happen in the back garden. Yeah. And the kind of narrative of the book, I realized too that there was no chronological order with it. It was about these, I don't know, like I realized when Nick had written the introduction, like he sent it to me the next day, you know, he just sort of did it. And I'm like, right, okay, well, that's that done. But like, what am I going to do? Where do I go? And then I sort of started thinking about these things and jotting them down, and then da-da-da-da-da. But then I remembered, as I got the basic idea of it out, like then I did this, then I did that, then I did this, it made room for other thoughts to come in. And I started thinking about light, and I thought about, you know, this experience I had as a kid, and realized that I could like sort of like jump all over the place. And I wasn't actually talking about time. I was talking about a thing. And that thing, I realized what it was towards the end when I reconnect with my brother, and I realized that the little guy that witnessed this thing with him is the guy that you see on stage when I'm playing. Right. There's an aspect of me that has never changed, and it's the person. It's the person in you that you don't see in the mirror. It's the person that you think that you are until you look in the mirror 20 years later and go, shit, you know. I guess it's that sort of
those desires and those sort of things of awe and wonder, you know, and wonder in the world. And, you know, that if people encourage in you, they stay alive.
Yeah.
And then the book for me became about, and I didn't know it was about that. I didn't know it was about my attempt to sort of create some spiritual force for myself, you know, that I'd been looking for some sort of spirituality all my life, you know, and yet I'd sort of like had this connection with vibration and sound that moved me in ways that I didn't know. And I realized writing the book that music was my attempt to sort of create some spiritual connection to something, you know. You know, I remember talking to somebody and they said, you know, it really like Alice Coltrane should have a church. And I said, but she does have one. Whose ever heart that she's in, that is her church.
Yeah.
You know, we're all connected by this. It doesn't have to be a physical building. And I realized the book, looking at it when I followed the narratives of stuff, and I just thought, I don't know, everybody was affected by music in the same way.
Well, at one point in the book, you say that sound even conjures light for you, which I found fascinating. And I'm very happy that you homed in on the light, because it was, to be honest with you, Lauren, I was rereading the book when the light, the apparitions, the glowing, that really stood out for me the second time. And I was like, what is all this business about light? Even, if I may, like the end of Nick Cave's introduction here, the chief conservator of the Royal Danish Library adjusts a small yellow light that shines directly onto the piece of gum, and we all stand back a little and with held breath watch it glow. Glowing light. I know what you're saying about a connection to spirituality, but that's really profound, this light that you are all...
I didn't realize, like I had about 400 photos and I whittled them down to what's in the book, because for me it was always a photo book, you know, and then I never thought the text was going to be even on a comparable level in terms of what the photos were giving, you know. So the fact that it's being, you know, people are reading it and kind of engaging in the text in such a kind of great way and encouraging way, I never anticipated that. You know, I thought people would be talking about how amazing the photos were and stuff like this. Yeah. And wow, look at this, you know, following this little journey and stuff like this, you know. But I didn't realize until Stuart Bailey had put the layout together and stuff, which was really integral and a really decisive moment to whether or not the book worked, you know. Like I kind of, I'd written the text and then I sort of had the pictures as a storyboard, edited them down and then got them in there. And then he was sort of really deft. He's the head of the ICA, the artistic director of the ICA in London. Yeah. And he'd done a book on the fall, which was really fantastic. And he saw this project, I offered it to him and he said he would love to do it. And he had this great approach, you know, like the gum should never be bigger than it actually is. Like the image should be reduced to reflect the size of it and things like that. You know, the towel is always this size. Yeah. But then when I was looking through, I realized that the kind of, once the frame is constructed to house the gum, that the light bursting out of it is exactly the same as the light that I saw in the window the light that I saw. You know, there's all these little moments of serendipity that I didn't even intend, you know, like to happen. Like the stuff with our letter and the statue, that just all came in as I was writing it, you know, and I just kept following the trail of the gum in a way. Anything, you know, so much to the actual day I handed in the draft. You know, like all the stuff with her daughter contacting me, that was all coming in. And at that point, I'd flipped into a sort of journal, keeping a date of what was going on, keeping track of what was happening as it unfolded and COVID happens and all this stuff. And then I kind of signed off on it. Dan goes like, you know, whatever, you know, it was 12th of December. That's the final day. And I have to tell you about this other thing that happened on the last day of the draft before I get to this thing. But I hand it in, and then I'm cleaning up, and in the back of a cupboard I find an old suitcase from the 90s from a Dirty Three touring of America, and it's this tiny little suitcase. I guess I just didn't travel with very much, like maybe a T-shirt, and it was so small, it was a little fake crocodile skin thing, and a Samsonite suitcase. And I opened it up, and inside was like the only thing that I have from that period of time, which was my address book from before I left Australia, my a thing of contacts in America that I was with 33. People were giving me things, all just slotted in. Then I found like postcards from Dave McComb, like from that period of time, that I include in the book. Mm-hmm. I found letters from Mick Geyer, just the most beautiful, eloquent letters that I used to get from him. I found a pile of them. I found the original ticket for the Nina Simone concert. This is the day I handed it in and signed off on it. And I found the script that Oren gave me the night I met him in this suitcase. And I just thought, okay, they're just saying, kid, let it rip, like I couldn't, the luck of it or whatever of it, that it happened 2 or 3 hours after I'd hit send and said, okay, let's do it, Dan. Yeah. This is it, the serendipity of that it sort of blew me away. I was like, no. And I found all the sort of passes for the Meltdown concert and things like that. I guess, again, it was things that I cared about, but I and I'd put them in one spot, but I didn't even know that spot existed, and again, it's that thing I mentioned in the book, I wondered, I thought you often think about that, how many people have secrets tucked away somewhere, that nobody ever sees. And that was something I was aware of, like, when I'm gone, the gum will just end up in the bin, and I felt like it should be in the world, and to follow this little lead from this little idea and get it out there, like that it's become a book that's engaged people's imagination. The gum is in a safe in a conservatorium in the Royal Danish Library in Denmark. It will go on tour, although she is terrified to take it. She said, it's going to kill me, this piece of gum. I was talking to her last night. Christina's going, it's going to kill me. I can't take it. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what to do with it. I have South Bank who called me and they want to acquire it. They heard me on the radio. They contacted Faber and said, look, we want to talk to Warren about it. They want to put it in their archives. Faber have a copy of the gum that I gave them for their sort of care in the project. And it's in the vaults now with Sylvia Plath's manuscripts and Ted Hughes' manuscripts. I mean, that is beautiful in itself, the thought that that's there, like it makes, it makes you think, what is an idea? What is art? What is it? Like, there's something incredibly kind of empowering about it and something beautiful about the banality of it and the fact that if you buy into the sort of what is awesome about it, it's absolutely nothing. It is this beautiful power of people's imagination to care, to carry things with love and care that they can't even touch, and it's the sort of that idea of storytelling and talking about somebody that keeps the spirit of them alive, until we are no longer alive. But while we are there and we can talk about someone who's gone and we keep them alive, and these little objects, I think the book is just my story about something, but I think people who read it, they can see their own story in it. You have these little things that mean nothing to nobody, but they're like a signpost for something. It might be a pair of slippers. It might be a bag of rotten sweets like I had, It might be like a pair of shoes. I don't know. It could be anything, but like these things that engage our memory again and make us, it's like the way when you stick on a AC/DC track for me, it makes me feel a certain way that I felt like when I first heard it, that's gone through with me. And our memory defines us and it feels like these things are important to us. I guess it doesn't go along with the Buddhist mentality of having no possessions and all that stuff, but like, hey, I'm all for hoarding,
Well, you reveal yourself to be a real collector of all sorts of objects, and so that's really insightful in terms of why would this gentleman go grab a piece of gum? Because you reveal yourself to collect all sorts of objects that most...
Yeah, they're sort of... I didn't realize, like I found I was collecting lead weights and, all these things like that I'd associated with a superstition and things like that, stuff... I guess I'm probably OCD. Or I don't know. Like,
no.
I remember seeing.
All I was going to say is what you were saying. I think we all do this. We ascribe tremendous meaning to things that are very subjective. Like if one of the children in my house that are mine were to knock over one of my wife's coffee mugs, she would be beside herself because that particular coffee mug. We have 1,000 coffee mugs in this house, but if that particular coffee mug were to go, she would be upset. And that's a weird, you can't explain that to most people. Why is Warren's Samsonite briefcase full of all these bizarre, a picture of Andy Gibb? Like, why did he think to keep it? Well, it's probably because the person who gave it to him means something to him. And
yeah, it meant something. You know, these things that mean things. And I guess we kind of like, you know, somehow we're surrounded by memories and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, another thing I wanted to say is writing for me was not an easy. It didn't come naturally. Like I could tell a story with the Dirty Three show and sort of like just go for it and things like that, and either sink or swim. You know, like it was just, I loved that moment of jumping out on a limb with the Dirty Three and starting up a story. You know, I used to do that a lot, and I really liked the risk that was involved and the humor. But this was a different thing because it was written down, and every time I reread it, I just thought, like, who's going to care? Or like, what are people going to think of this? It's, you know, it's like the kind of painter who you hand a guitar and say, like, make a record. You know, like, it was someone gave me a pen and said, you're writing a book. And music, I have some relationship to, and I've managed to do something in the last 30 years with it. It's still a mystery to me. I don't want it to never not be a mystery. I think when it's not a mystery, I will not engage with it anymore. So I always want it to be out of reach. And I've always had this thing driving me, which is one day I might make something good, you know. So I always get what I'm working on has to be as good as I can do. But then once it's out, then the next thing comes along and it's like, okay, it's not like this last thing. What are we looking for? Where is it? You know, like, I mean, maybe this next one will be good, be better, you know, like this will be the thing. So that's what's driven me for 30 years, and the act of collaboration, which I really like. You know, I like the energy of that.
I was just going to say, this book exists, I think, in a sort of magical realism realm, and we've talked a lot about you've talked about people being brought to tears by the gum, by the idea of the gum, the fact that you kept the gum. They hear your story, and then this little piece of gum and a towel in a Tower Records bag becomes this it's like an emotional lightning rod. But I also just wanted to say, if I may, the book is really fucking funny. Like, the exchanges with you, and there's, for those who haven't read it yet, the way it's been laid out with these text message exchanges between you and Nick. Anytime Nick shows up, I'm laughing. And even when he's moved by you and concerned about your fitness as a human, I can't help it. It's very charming and funny and multifaceted on emotional level.
It's very much me trying to work out my way into the writing process. So nothing was done for kind of like effect or anything like that. You know, I love the look of the screenshots, and I love the chats and things like that. I love the one with Anne when she says, it's a holy relic. This is like a hair of Christ. When I saw that, I literally was just standing in the rain, just soaked. Yeah. I couldn't believe what she'd written, you know, and I wanted people to see that, you know, I wanted people, I don't know, to feel what I felt, you know. That was like an idea happening there in front of me, you know, and I had a feeling like that when I would hear, like when I heard like Distant Sky, when we sort of found that thing and Nick started singing on it, or when we did Magneto, I had that feeling like when I saw that text come in, you know, like this conversation, I could see here was like an idea on the text happening, you know, like that thing that texting can do. And I also like kind of wanted people to see that, because I know that when you look at a text, you're looking at something really personal and intimate. It changes the way you look. So just typing it out is not the same effect, you know. And I remember Alexa said to me, she was a bit against them at first. She's like, it's sort of messy and that. And I go, no, there's a whole different thing. She goes, well, I sort of feel like I'm sort of like spying on something, or like I shouldn't be. And I said, well, that's exactly the point of it. You know, you go into it in a really kind of different way. And I had at first, the first draft I did was just me. I chopped and pasted together like 6 pages of holy relics, you know, like, and then I'd stick Nina Simone's gum on the end of it. And Dan sort of flicked through it, read through it, and came back with some positive encouragement. He was awesome for that, because the wrong word from him could have put me off. Like, I had no idea if it was any good or not. I just couldn't tell, like I didn't know even what was expected or what I should be doing. And I got to this sort of list of relics, it was like everything, I could find on the internet. And I'm like, so what do you think of the list? And he goes like, well, we can probably do without that, can't we? And I was like, right. I could see 1,000 words disappear off my quota, and I was like, fuck. But it gave me the idea to make my own lists, which is why I made those lists in the book of things in the case or like in my box or these places, so, even unwittingly, the scaffolding that I was using to write the book, came to help me too. It was like, well, actually, what was I trying to do with that? Like, I love the idea of a list of stuff. I'll make my own, And I got to the most important moment for me writing it, 'cause I had no idea at all. I just couldn't tell, like what I was. Half the time I'd be like, is anybody actually going to read this, And I had so much anxiety about it. And then I constructed it I had about 30 or 40 quotes that I'd taken from people from all over the place, like Pasolini and Marcus Aurelius and Beethoven and my shoemaker and a taxi driver that I'd met had said something, and people I knew, people unknown, like someone would say something and it'd stick in my mind, and I put it in, and I used them as little placeholders for each chapter pretty much, And I had them there because I thought if people don't get my words, they'll get these, And so I had them there just because I wasn't really confident, and I thought it gave weight to it. And then literally the day that I was sitting with Dan going over it, and he's like, okay, we're ready to let it go. You've got to get permission for all these quotes. And I'm like, you're joking. And he's like, no, you do. Yeah. And like this letter from Beethoven, who translated it? Is it a correct translation? Like, you've got to do that. And I'm like, I got it off the internet. Like, I have no idea, like, I don't even know where I'd find it again. And he's like, well, we've got to think about, you got to do this. And I'd had problems securing a photo I'd taken of an interview with Nina Simone, ended up letting it go. I just wanted to have a picture of Mick and Nina Simone having a cigarette together. It was just on one page, like they're having a smoke together. And I had this picture I'd taken from a BBC interview, and the BBC just played hardball, asked for a stupid amount of money for an iPhone photo off the thing. And then after I'd agreed to this ridiculous amount of money, then they said, oh, you've got to get permission from her estate. And I'm like, why? And they go, well, we won't give it over without it. And her estate is in such a mess, like I went back and forth. It just kept going around in circles. In the end, I just got a different photo, and it's better for it, that was done. But I got to this last stage with the book about the quotes, and Dan just said to me like, and again, it's what the book is about. It's about getting ideas out there that you hear in your head and just saying them. And they're either going to work or not, but it's giving them a chance, And when you find the courage to say those things, it's when you start to kind of get more ideas, I think. Like, it's about getting stuff out there, whatever, getting feedback. Dan just goes to me, I got an idea. And I'm like, what? And he goes, pick one that you like and we delete everything. And I knew straight away which one I wanted, which was Junior Dad. Because for me, it's what the book...
By Lou Reed, yeah.
Yeah. Would you come to me if I was half drowning and I'm above the last wave? And it just seemed like the book was this petition, like this plea for help. Yeah. It was like begging, wanting something to come into my life, asking these people to come to me, whether it was Beethoven's Ghost or the vibrations of Alice Coltrane or whatever, this sort of supernatural, like this petition, because I didn't know how to navigate the world or something, Yeah. And as soon as he did that, he hit erase and gave me the thing, and I looked at it, and that was the first time I saw the book. Like he goes, your words are strong enough. You don't need this here. You got to take the training wheels off. And actually that part of the process for me was so symbolic, because it was like the photo of the first sort of molds, those little wax molds of the gums, seeing the imprint of it, and then seeing the kind of silver thing appear. It was taking the kind of the cast of it, or getting the scaffolding, taking it off and seeing what was left. That was a kind of really, really powerful moment for me.
Well, Warren, I just want to reiterate what Dan has said to you, and I hope what you're recognizing as you speak to people and receive some reception to this book. It is a remarkable achievement, Warren. I mean, you are such a talented guy. It's so beautifully written. I've read it 2.5 times, and I could plan to read it for a third. It's really beautiful, and I want people to check it out. So I thank you for this, because it has stirred up a lot of, as a collector myself, as someone who ascribes meaning to things, I sometimes, when I pause and if I look at myself, I'm like, why do you care about this? But this sort of helped me.
But that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing. It's just about care, It's about care. Yeah. That's all it's about, I think. And it's been interesting doing in stores and that people ask me and they tell me about things that they have, that they collect. And I thought I was the only person who collected lead weights, and someone, I can't not pick up a washer if I see it on the ground, And I heard a beautiful story. Dan told me that Will Oldham had told him how he had a hedge clipping off Leonard Cohen's garden because he'd sort of gone into this flat and Leonard Cohen was trimming the hedge. So he quickly kind of grabbed a hedge clipping off Leonard Cohen's hedge and put it in a bottle. Yeah. And then kept it there, but his wife threw it out unknowingly. Oh. But I love that story because it actually is what would have happened to this, And again, just to go back to it, it's about getting ideas out in the world, that we get them out there and getting them out of your head. One of the big things for me, which is very small in the book, one of the big moments for me is when I met Guillermo del Toro and I kind of look in there and I see these teeth rattling around and I have an idea that, and I used to have these all the time and I'd be I'm not going to say that, and I just said it, let's make the score using false teeth and prosthetic limbs. Yeah. Now, it never happened, but it was actually the fact that people's imagination in that room got under it and they're like, what a great idea, and that's what this is about. This book is about that ideas need other people to latch onto them and fight for them, whether they come to fruition or not. And it's like that with people. We're ideas walking around and we need people to latch onto us and fight for it, Well, given Guillermo's affection for your Samsonite briefcase, maybe that could have been used too if that project had come to fruition. He really... But isn't that incredible, that he could sort of be so... Can I carry it?
Well, he sees your briefcase and he holds it and he's transported back to a time when he had such a briefcase.
Yeah. They're these strange little time machines, these things. And I think that's what we were talking about before, the objects, they're little time machines and they make us travel back. Thinking about this made me recall this thing that was such a powerful thing that happened with me and my brother when we were kids. Yeah. It made me reach out to him. That I've been estranged from him for a long, long time in many ways. And to actually think that maybe I took that gum just to kind of reconnect, is really a beautiful thing and moves me incredibly. Yeah. And the fact that at some stage you have to sort of reconnect with something to make it kind of eternal, that you kind of the idea links up. It finds it at a certain point in time, and you close the story in a way.
No, that's beautifully put, and I think that comes across in this book absolutely. Earlier, you had suggested that you and Nick have been performing songs from Carnage and Ghosteen, and given my affection for both of you and my concern for both of you, I must ask, how's Nick doing? How's Nick doing with this material? How's Nick doing generally?
No, he's great. I mean, from what I can get, he seems fantastic. The show the show is really wonderful because people don't really know what they're going to get, and they just get swept up in it. Yeah. It's a very unusual show. It's kind of cosmic and spiritual, and people don't really know what they're going to get. We don't play any of the hits. There's a couple at the end, but it just stands its own ground, and it's really bold, and that's a great thing to be doing at this point in your life. Yeah. Any point in your life, it's a great thing to be doing. It's amazing to be able to present 2 albums that haven't been played live.
Yeah, and you're describing, in a sense, every time I've ever seen Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, those words you used apply. The last time would have been in Toronto at the big arena there, Air Canada Centre, and I couldn't believe what you did with that space. You made it a club, and it all felt very intimate and magical. And remember, Nick went right up into the audience, into the rafters there. Do you remember that show at all? He climbed all the way up, and then was like, the song ended. He's like, kind of got trapped up here. Anyway, just
I remember the place. I don't remember that moment, but I do remember similar moments, because there's quite a lot where he gets himself up somewhere and then he's got to try and get his way back down again.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable. As we're speaking, there is a B-sides collection forthcoming as we're speaking. Is there anything do you have any insight on this Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds thing before we wrap up here, Warren?
Oh, just that it's really actually fantastic, because the B-sides, all that stuff that doesn't make it onto the records, when it's sort of thrown all together, like the first B-sides was so great because it just goes all over the place. You're jumping like, a year at a time sometimes, and there's the sort of like the stuff that run away or didn't seem to fit, the sort of orphan songs in a way. But when you throw them all together in a collection, it just jumps all over the place. It seems so kind of schizophrenic or something. It's just like it just sort of jumps left, right, everywhere, And it's interesting, I think, with the B-sides, because you see an evolution of a rather kind of unusual band. It's always been unusual, always just trying to move each time in some way. And, the last 2 additions to it, like the last one album sort of starts off basically like guitar band. By the end of the sort of second one, which is the second side was something else I worked on during lockdown, which was all this stuff that no one's ever heard before, and then trying to knock them into some shape. It ends up in the most unusual place, there's sort of a weird electronic sort of thing band that's going on, so I actually really like that about the sort of all the stuff, the sort of Dylan stuff that's coming out and all that. That it's just this other side of an artist.
Have you heard the new Dylan Rarity set?
Yeah, I have. I think it's fantastic. The New York one, all that stuff. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I reviewed it and I went on and on about it and really immersed, because I had to write a lengthy review. I immersed myself in it and I really loved it. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I really hope there's stuff that comes out of the Christmas carols one that he did. I hope there's some stuff that comes out of that period.
I love that period.
I mean, it's me too. I do too. Like I think it's one of my favorite ones actually. This last one, it's just so kind of great because it's a bit of a sort of maligned period and stuff, and you just see, there's just great stuff going on and.
Well, he was strong. Like, he was thought to be weak. Like by his own admission, I think he thought he was kind of done. And then you actually hear the power. That's what I wrote about. Like I just like the power of his voice, the conviction with which he sings and writes. Like it's not a weakened guy at all. He's very strong. So yeah.
No, it's not. I mean, but I guess at the time compared to what he'd done, everybody thought he'd taken a step down or something, or whatever, But like, no, not at all. I mean, I love that. I really love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, people can learn more about this Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds record by obviously Googling Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. You'll figure it out. Warren, if you want people to follow you, so to speak, and learn more about Nina Simone's Gum, where would you like to send them, per se? Where can they learn more about this book? It's out by Faber. I'll mention that.
It's out by Faber, yeah. I guess that's the place to look for it. I just Google Nina Simone's Gum. There's not another book like that.
No, there absolutely isn't. I agree.
The thing that you can do, though, if you're interested, is to follow Alice Park. Sumatra, which is a park that I've sort of set up in February. I purchased some land, donated it, and we're building a park for animals with special needs. And we've sort of crowdfunded it, and we're building it now. It's been amazing. It's like the book, this idea that I sort of launched out there. people have rallied around it, and, you know, people did auctions. It's just the most beautiful thing, you know. Like I noticed this sort of sense of community coming out in the COVID thing, where people were delivering meals for people and checking in on people to see if they're okay, and, you know, doing auctions to raise stuff for people going under. And I was really, really moved by that. And I sort of wanted to, I don't know, like to do something. And I sort of met this woman, Femke Den Haas, through a friend of mine. And anyway, we launched this thing. We raised 70 or 80,000 euros. We're building the park. It's expanding. So, and we have armless monkey and bears without teeth. There are all these animals that have been abused either through trafficking or pets, and, you know, beaten up. Just people beat up a monkey and leave it. It's got brain damage and stuff like that. And birds, you know, with 1 foot, and we're building a place that they can just sort of live in happiness and die. And I eventually wanted to expand and build a park for elephants, old elephants, to just retire from zoos and things like that when they don't want them, and they can just sort of live out a happy life. And I'm gonna build a massive piece of gum, like 10 foot tall, out of stone, and I'm going to get a boat, and I'm going to sail to Sumatra, like on a boat, and I want to wear a pith hat and a safari suit, and a mate's going to document it and take photos, and I'm going to go to the park and unveil this gum and let the bears and the monkeys play on it, and I'll peel bananas, and in my autumnal years, just like, I don't know, get back on the gear and go out in a blaze of glory.
Okay, well, that all sounds good. Are you an avid gum chewer yourself? Do you like gum?
I do, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. I chewed gum all throughout my university days, but I don't do it so much anymore.
Well, it's such an amazing thing also, too, when you think about it. It's like Didi Ramone or something. It's just so awesome, you know, that she'd be eating gum, and then you find out she's had a couple of lines of gack and a few bottles of champagne. And I mean,
sausages, lots of sausages,
she's just the best, you know, really. She's the best, you know. I mean, the book is about her heart and soul, too, you know, like really it's, you know, fuck knows what she'd think of it, but, you know,
I think she'd enjoy it. She seems erratic in a lot of ways, but I'd like to think that she would really enjoy
well,
it.
We'll never know, but the thing is that, like, thinking about it's enough sometimes, so, you know.
Yeah. So if people want to learn, you mentioned a lot of things there. You're on social media. Is that the best place to keep track of some of these things?
Well, I have the Warren Ellis on Instagram. You know, you can see what I'm doing. I throw things out there from time to time, what I'm on. I sort of realized I was doing a lot of stuff, and I should kind of have some presence there because, you know, I don't have a manager. I don't have anything like that. You know, I just like kind of do my own thing. I was unmanageable in 1990, and it hasn't changed.
Well, in my encounters, you've always been very lovely, Warren, so I appreciate you, and I appreciate all your work. Now, we are in a situation where you have some musical releases out with you and Nick, among others, and normally at the end of a conversation like this, I would suggest we go out on a song. Is there something that you can think of, either from the B-Sides and Rarities collection, or perhaps Carnage or something? Is there something you...
Yeah, go out on the song Carnage.
Okay. Any reason why that came to mind?
It's just such an awesome track.
Okay. All right, let's hear it. This is Nick Cave and Warren Ellis with the title track from their 2021 album, Carnage. Warren, I love you very much. Thank you for this time. And
I love you too, man.
And we'll talk soon, I hope.
All right. Take care.
I always seem to be saying goodbye and rolling through the mountains like a train. My uncle's at the chopping block, turning chickens into fountains. I'm a barefoot child watching in the rain. That stepped into this song, taken a bow and stepped right out again. I'm sitting on the balcony, reading Flannery O'Connor with a pencil and a plan. This song is like a rain cloud that keeps circling overhead, and there it comes around again. And it's only love with a little bit of rain. And I hope to see you again. A reindeer frozen in the footlights steps back into the woods. My heart, it is an open road where we ran away for good. Look over there, look over there. The son, a barefoot child with fire in his hair. And then a sudden sun explodes. It was you, and only you, and it's only love driving through the rain, rolling down the mountains like a train. It's only love, and it comes on like a train. It's only love, rolling down the mountains in the rain.
Want the can't stop, won't stop watching sort of stuff? You know, the dramatic stuff. AMC Plus has it all. Would you go to war for your family? Don't miss Kin, the all-new Irish gangland drama. Ready to raise the stakes? Catch up on the latest episodes of The Walking Dead's epic final season. Nostalgic for TV's golden age? AMC Plus is the home of Mad Men. Plus, meet a sitcom wife like no other in Kevin Can F Himself, starring Annie Murphy. Available ad-free, on demand, and on the platforms you're already on. Sign up today at amcplus.com. AMC Plus, only the good stuff.
Warren Ellis, if you're listening at this point to this episode, I doubt you are, but if you are, just want you to know once again what a thrill it was to have you on this show. Thanks again, Warren, for being on this, the 642nd episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One Podcast Network and is available wherever you get your podcasts. if you can't locate an episode that you've heard about, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my monthly newsletter, everything you need is over on my website there, avishkhanna.com. You can also like Creative Control on Facebook. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Vish Creative, or you can follow me directly on Twitter and on Instagram at Vishkhanna. Also, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation. $6 or more a month grants you access to exclusive content. And if you're interested in receiving a Creative Control t-shirt, please message me on Patreon and I'll get you one while supplies last. So again, it's flexible. You can change your donation if you start out at $6 and you want to reduce it, or if you start out at $1,000 a month and you want to reduce it. That's never happened. If you want to do whatever you want to do, you can always change your mind. And who knows? As I'm speaking to you, maybe I'll post my 2009 interview, I think it was, with Nick Cave. That can't be right. It wasn't 2009, was it? Was it? I don't remember when it was. It was a long time ago, but maybe I'll post that. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, again, patreon.com/Creative Control for more info. Thanks again to the fine Alberta record retailer Blackbird Music, which you can learn more about at blackbird.ca, and also to Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton for their in-kind support for this show. Thanks as always to Jim Guthrie for letting me use some music of his on the program. You can learn more about Jim at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you for listening to this episode with Warren Ellis. If you haven't heard it before, check out Nick and Warren on the show from 2017. Just go back into your podcast player and see if you can track that one down. Or again, go to my website. And if you can, subscribe to this podcast and tell your friends all about it, and maybe spread the word about the show and share the news, the good word about Creative Control, as it were. And other than that, I will talk to you very soon. Read Nina Simone's Gum by Warren Ellis. It's an incredible book. I know you'll enjoy it. So do that for me if you can. And otherwise, I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.